am so happy that finally I'm doing an interview with Gulshan Devaiah because this has been quite on the cards for a while now. So I'm so glad. So thank you so much, Gulshan, for joining me on filmishilmy.com. I know you had a very busy schedule with the shooting of Ulajh and stuff. So thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Anuj. Really, it was nice bumping into you the other day at the cinema as well, and that's the main reason why this is happening. So, and you expressed that you wanted to do this, and I had a few days off, so here we are.
I'm glad.
Talking
I'm
to-
so glad. What a lovely, that was such a lovely coincidence as well that we bumped into
yeah,
the
it was.
beginning of Flash. So that was great. Well, look, I mean, Gulshan, I mean, it's been a wonderful time for you. You've obviously got what you've done Dahaad. Dahaad is now on Prime Video. You're shooting for Ulajh. How would you describe your current mindset as a creative right now?
Right now, I'm focusing mainly on Ulajh. I'm not thinking about anything else. I just want to focus on my job and do my job to the best of my ability. So I'm not really thinking about what happened with the heart and what's going to happen in the future. Although me and my managers are currently negotiating some other stuff as well. But I'm trying to keep it, about the job on hand right now. And then I
Hmm.
still have about 10 days to go for Ulajh, and I have two small schedules back in India as well to finish this film. So I don't want to lose focus. Uh,
Mhm.
as much as I enjoy all the praise and appreciation for Dahaad, um, or 8 a.m. Metro for that matter, or any of my previous work, it sometimes is a bit of a distraction because I have a job on hand. So I'm trying to be focused about Ulajh right now and my part in it.
All right. Well, I mean, I know you're currently shooting for it, and NDAs, contracts always forbid artists of giving information to us. But
Yeah.
tell me, if you can, whatever you can tell us. I mean, how is your character coming along, shaping up in Ulajh, and what can we expect from you in the film, which is perhaps something different to what we've seen before?
Yeah, lots of thrills in the film. Yes, perhaps a little different. It's not the easiest part to pull off. There are many, layers to it, and me and Sudhanshu Saria, the director, we've been working at it for quite some time before we arrived here in London. So a lot of my major bits are still there, are yet to be shot, and most of my work is with Janvi, and we did few readings and rehearsals together as well. So there are lots of ideas and lots of things that we had decided upon. So I'm really looking forward to sort of realizing them fully when we actually get to shooting those scenes. I don't think I can tell you anything more than that. It's a sort of a spy thriller, so you
Right.
can imagine what sort of characters we might be playing.
And it's quite fun, I'm sure, because obviously you and Janvi, I'm sure, interacted at some point during the Ghost Stories promotional spree.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
So, I mean, for you to actually be working together now, I mean, it must be quite, I guess it gives you that sense of comfort as well and flexibility as well as an artist, right? When you're working with people you've met before, you've interacted before, does that help, do you think, sometimes?
I don't really. No, no. I like working with new people, and you try and get to know them. And I'm very interested in working with new people, and I was very interested in her and her approach. And I didn't know much about her. She was quite fun when we did the interviews for Ghost Stories, and I thought she was a bit naughty as well. So I thought that was fun. Yeah. But there's so much work over here. Actually, we got to sort of chat about things much more before we started filming here. The schedules here are like so kind of crazy because the nights right now during the summers are just like 5 hours. We
Mm.
have five, and we had the lights out. So I did a couple of night shoots with Janvi, and we had like 5 hours to sort of do stuff. So you don't get much time to sort of catch up and chat about this and that. You try and stay focused about the work and the scenes because you want to get it done in a shorter period of time. But
Mhm.
it's been fun. I'm really enjoying working with Sudhanshu as well as Janvi. But a lot of my scenes with Janvi are yet to be shot, so I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I can't wait to hear and maybe see a lot more to come from Ulaj soon. But look, I mean, Gulshan, I would love to just talk about your career. I mean,
Yeah,
what a wonderful journey you've had. I mean, from
thank you.
fashion to films and now even the web space as well. You're really have made really great movements into that as well. I mean, in a nutshell, I mean, to summarize a long journey like that, I mean, must be tough. But if you were to describe the sort of transition that you've had, how would you articulate it?
It's a dream come true, you know. When I was a young boy, I used to dream about being in Hindi films, and I am, and I couldn't ask for anything more. You know, the growth in career is something that I am focusing on right now. But at the same time, when I look back, you know, 15 years ago, when I used to live in a different city, and I used to dream about being in Hindi films, I feel really content that I was able to sort of, you know, make that dream come true. I'm very happy already. Now it's the matter of just focusing on what I am doing and trying to get, you know, a little better with every project, be it my craft or my career or my approach to my profession. I just want to keep getting better. And a lot of these things like fame, money, stardom, all those things are incidental. If people like me, they like me because of my work.
Hmm.
That's the main attraction. So the focus on the work, I shouldn't lose focus on the work. And sometimes I have to remind myself that, you know, yeah, it's fun when you get a lot of attention and appreciation. It's a lot of fun, and I enjoy it. But I have to get back my focus. I have to get the focus back on the work, because that's what has put me in this place, and that's what will get me further up the ladder as well.
Sure. And I have to tell you one thing. The thing that I love about your craft as well is that you've managed to create this space where you play quite realistic characters. But there's always a very wild side to them. There's almost this sense of animation that, your characters display, almost pantomime-like, actually. But even if it is, I mean, even if we look at Ramlila, for example,
Yeah, yeah.
again, it's a very real character, but yet he has that sense of like, very wild nature, even any of the roles that you've done. So tell me, Gulshan, is this something that, you've imbibed in your life, or do you think that that just is the sort of roles that you're approached with? Or, I mean, how would you describe that whole sense of characteristics that your characters display? Do you think it comes from a personal space?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think it comes from a very personal space, but I think these are pretty much the kind of characters that I've got an opportunity to play. But if you look back at my most recent work, uh, the film 8 a.m. Metro, which a lot of people didn't get to see, but Dahaad, that's not a very flamboyant part. Uh,
Hmm.
so I'm trying to sort of explore a different, have some variety and diversity in terms of the kind of parts that I can play. So I was always kind of obsessed with with realism, in the sense that the influences that I've had. I remember watching The French Connection and Gene Hackman, and in fact, the whole cast. I've watched both those films in the 90s. I watched them on television, and I was my mind was blown as to, like, I didn't feel like they were acting. I thought they were real people, But I knew that they were actors. I knew that they were, like, they had learned a script and they were doing scenes and it was being filmed, and there were cuts and all those things. But it just evoked a really different kind of a response from me. It seemed so real, and I think since then I've been obsessed about, like, creating that kind of the illusion of reality.
Hmm.
The And I think my approach to my work is also like that. I try to sort of create that illusion of reality and try my best for that illusion to not shatter. Sometimes it's more difficult than the other times, and I've also not had any formal training, so I learn from experience. But yeah, some of the characters, like the one that you said in Ram Leela, or be it from Commando 3, and these are flamboyant characters, or Jimmy and Mani from Mard Ko Dard Nahi Hota.
Hmm.
There's a certain amount of flamboyance that's already there, which has been written in the part, and I think to some degree, with my interpretation also, I kind of submit to that flamboyance and that slightly extra colors, and it's fun as well. But at the same time, it was a whole lot of fun to play a really subtle, nice guy, a good guy like Devilal also, who's
Mm.
not a flamboyant character at all, who's very real, who's um, there's nuance. I mean, there are subtleties to him in terms of. I mean, he's a very nuanced character without being really over the top or like flamboyant.
And it's interesting as well because, I remember we had this discussion very briefly at the cinema when we met
Yeah,
about, again, you've done a lot of villain roles, but actually there's some wonderful roles of yours which I personally really thought was very different actually from what you've done before. I mean, even if you take Kuldeep Patwal, for example, which
yeah,
I think is such a rare gem of yours, which I don't think many people may know about. But you play a lawyer in that film, and I
yeah.
think that was such a
Mostly
wonderful.
in Punjabi. Yeah,
Yeah. So, I think when it does come to, perhaps the perception of a majority of a role that you've done and people
yeah,
perhaps not being able to understand that, do you does it ever bother you that much? I think when people just say, oh, but, you do mostly villain roles and, they kind of have
yeah,
that opinion of you.
yeah, yeah. It used to bother me a little bit, not so much anymore. I think some of the popular roles have been the ones where I have played bad guys. So I can't really, blame people for thinking that. Like many people wouldn't have seen 8 a.m. Metro or Kuldipya Patwal. I didn't do it. So people wouldn't have seen it. So if I feel upset that people only recognize me from my bad guy roles, then I'd be an idiot.
Mm.
Um, I'm happy with the attention that I'm getting, and I think I have gotten opportunities also to show, other things that I can do, whether be it with Hunter or with now with as Devilal in Dahaad. So, which is the show has done really well, and a lot of people have seen it. So I think, and many of the messages that I've been getting from people and from the press also is that we saw you in roles like Burak Ansari in Commando, and then in Bhavani in Ram Leela, or Mandar in Hunter, and then we see Devila. There's a stark difference in terms of the kind of parts that they are. So that it takes some time to create some versatility and diversity, and then one has to be a little patient and sometimes even hustle for the right kind of parts that help you create a diverse career. So that's what I'm trying to do. It doesn't bother me so much anymore because I know that a lot of my upcoming projects, or the ones that I'm currently filming, have a good mix of flamboyant characters as well as like really subtle, regular, average guys.
Right. And, I think, again, the style of roles that you've done. I mean, even if you look at your first film, which was what That Girl in Yellow Boots. I mean, it was a rather dark and very shocking film actually for that time.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
I think looking at the sort of trajectory that you've had, and I think the areas you've had to tap into as an actor, how do you feel that's made you a lot more aware about our society and maybe even, I mean, just even the men that exist within our society, the people that exist within it. How do you feel it's kind of influenced that?
Many times, when you take up a part, you think about it, and then you start to think about things that you don't usually think about. Because the job of an actor is to first submit to the part, the reality of the part that's been written. Because if you don't accept it as the reality, the written material as the reality, then I feel that you have difficulty portraying that part honestly and sincerely. So you have to accept it. So when you do that, you have to think about a lot of things that you haven't thought about. Say, for example, uh, if I'm playing a part where I'm abusive to women,
Hmm.
uh, that will make me think about that. And it'll make me really uncomfortable. Most of the time, it makes me really uncomfortable about any kind of physical or verbal abuse to women or sexual abuse. It makes me uncomfortable. But if the reality of the part that I'm playing requires me to do so, I have to accept the reality of the part because it's not me, it's the illusion of character that I'm playing. But at the same time, I do think about a lot of things that I wouldn't have thought about as
Hmm.
to how I personally feel about certain kinds of things. It also helps create empathy for other people, and then it helps you get to a place where you can be less judgmental of people and you can try and understand things from different perspectives. At least for that's what it does for me. And these are all good things. It really helps you deal with your friends, other people from society, other concepts and ideas that you may not understand completely. It helps you sort of take a step back, look at it, and say, okay, let me try and get my head around it and understand it, and form my own opinions that are sound and detailed about things like that. So I think observation and empathy, these things are really useful.
Mhm. And I think even if we look at the industry currently as well, there is so much onus on acting and craft. Before, I feel like for the longest amount of time, Hindi cinema, and I think Indian cinema generally, has been very much star driven. It's about the star power. But now, if we know that you're headlining a film or a series, or maybe another actor, let's just say Vijay Varma, is headlining something, I think the audience becomes a lot more curious and a lot more assured of knowing that what we're about to see will be of substance, will be of, great, kuch acha dekhne ko milega basically hame.
Mm.
Do you, as an actor who's obviously managed to secure that very wonderful space for yourself, how do you feel about the fact that we're seeing that sort of a phase where it's not just about the star power anymore? Do you feel like it's kind of given you a sense of satisfaction and assurance as well?
See, there are always going to be phases. People will change. There was a phase in where uh, say for example, people liked a particular actor or actress because they had a certain style of approach to their roles, or characters, and that's what created all the stars. And, be it Salman Khan or Madhuri Dixit or any of the others, they all had a distinctive style about themselves. They had distinctive voices and things like that. And I think we are in a different phase right now where I think actors play different characters, and they sometimes subtly or drastically modulate their physical appearance or their voice or their approach to certain characters.
Hmm.
And that's what seems to be the trend these days. And these are the kind of stories that are being told by filmmakers also, and we have to sort of adapt to that situation. So yes, I'm not particularly saying this is a good phase or a bad phase, but it's a different phase from what when I was a young boy or a teenager, the kind of films that I used to watch and the influence that I had. This definitely moved a lot further ahead from that, and I'm sure this will change further. As I don't know what we will perhaps we'll go to AI. I don't
Oh God, apparently,
yeah,
I've watched a few YouTube videos actually, and apparently it's already happening in adverts and stuff.
yeah.
So, I mean,
So
I fear.
yeah, so I don't know if I fear, but yet, but maybe I don't know. It'll kick in at some point.
Yeah,
Uh, I'm trying my best not to be afraid about that. The point I'm making is that it's change is always a constant, and then if you're able to embrace it and move along with it, then I think you'll be happier. And I think that's a lot of my contemporary actors are also in that phase. I think they have embraced the change, and some of the older actors also from say the previous generation, they also seem to have embraced the change. And then you see them approaching a lot of their characters and a lot of the stories they are part of differently as well. There is a lot more variety in terms of the kind of stories that are being told, so which is really good from a consumer perspective. There are long format stories that have been told. There's feature lengths and there are short films. There's so much more options. It's really good. It may get to a slightly confusing point also, because it's a lot more difficult to get people's attention nowadays. In ways, people also expect actors to have um, slightly more sincere and honest approach to their characters, and you get that from sometimes certain films, certain fans also, certain actors or certain people are like, hey, this is too lazy, you're not even trying to sort of be this character. And we have seen that in the recent past a few times, so which means that the audiences are also pushing the people that they like also to try something different and make that extra effort. So um, which is all good, but this will also change at some point of time, and we have to embrace that change as well and change according to times.
Right, absolutely. But look, I want to know a bit more about when we're talking about your journey. See, I think for you to get to a stage, because I think when you were doing that Girl in Yellow Boots, at that point in time, it was still quite a humble film. I mean, even though of course Anurag Kashyap was an established name too,
Yeah.
but still it was a very modest film. Uh, has there ever been a time in your journey or your career, Gulshan, where you've encountered a very perhaps dark time or very difficult time, and what gave you the strength to overcome that at that point?
Yes, I did. Like, I think the first dark phase was the initial phase when I started to get all the attention, which is 2011, 2012. Uh, then 2011 was my debut year, you know. And then I didn't understand a lot of things. I knew how to work, but then I just didn't understand a lot of things. And I really didn't know how to channelize all that attention that I was getting also in a positive way that was useful and helpful for me and my career. It scared me. And that kind of like made me like really like hide myself and
Mm,
behind characters. And I was really uncomfortable being myself in front of other people as well. It took me some time to sort of observe and learn and get comfortable and sort of uh, um, not be conscious of the fact that that people will see me or perceive me a certain way. So you have to get comfortable with yourself. You have to be okay and happy with who you are as well. So I started working on that. That did take some time, and it did take some time. And then uh, the realization starts to come on you that this is a game of perceptions, and then to some extent you can control that how people perceive you, and to some extent you can't control because people will have subjective opinions about you. Your perceived value is also a subjective opinion. One cannot have, you can't measure things. A meritocracy cannot exist in the arts. It cannot, because you can't really measure things here.
mhm,
It's mathematically impossible. So it's based on perception. And what we want is majority consensus. That's what everybody's after. We want majority consensus.
mm,
Once you start to get around that idea, then you get comfortable with it, which took some time. And then you don't really feel too bad. And that really helps you emerge out of the dark phases as well.
mm,
Some of the dark phases are also financial because, financial security is also very important. And when that's not there, it can cause a lot of trouble and distress in your life.
right.
So yeah, you deal with it, and with age and experience, you get a bit more wiser. You can also learn from other people by looking at how they approach things. You can also ask for help at times. So these are some of the ways where I use these things to sort of emerge out of these. I mean, it's never been so bad that I've been staring at the abyss. It's
Mhm,
never been so bad, but it does have, like, I think some phase in the during the lockdown. Although it wasn't that very, I was privileged that I wasn't really very much affected by it, but
mm,
it also gave me a lot of time to think about, a lot of alone time to think about things and reassess some of my approaches to my work and
wow,
my professional work. Some bad shit happened during the lockdown, and that does emotionally affect you. And then you start to think about it in much more detail, and how why it affects you, and then what should you do so that it doesn't kind of like affect you. And I feel that in our business, we have a lot of angst because most people are not successful. They would like to be in a certain position, but they're not. They don't have that majority consensus, or that they're not able to control their perceived value. That creates over a period of time a lot of angst, and you blame other people for your misfortunes or shortcomings or lack of success, lack of work, or anything. And that can be very poisonous. That can be very poisonous, and other people can exploit that for
yeah,
their benefit.
for
And
sure. It's
I
tough,
saw
and
that
we've seen
happening.
examples of it. Yeah.
And I saw that happening particularly during the lockdown. There's some really horrible tragedies happened, and I started to see that to some extent there are other people who are exploiting other people's angst. You know,
Right. Well, thank
I
you so
don't
much.
want that.
Well,
I don't.
thank
I don't want people. My angst is my angst, and then I don't want people to exploit that for their benefit.
No, of course, no, of course not. And thank you for being so honest. I think it's so wonderful to hear that. But look, we're running out of time. I know you've got another interview lined up in a bit. So I've got a massive question to ask you. Sorry, because I know we're running out of time. So it's a three-part question.
Okay.
Apologies, Gulu. So firstly, it's Pride Month at the moment, and I think it's wonderful how you played Badhaai Do, that character in Badhaai Do. I wanted to marry you. I thought it was such a beautiful character. I loved it. So again, for you as a heterosexual man, for you to play such a character, how important was it for you to do justice to the community and to that role in particular? First part of the question. Second part of the question is your Kannadiga. When can we see you do more films in Kannada? Because Kannada cinema is on a all-time rise, and also you've got Guns and Gulaabs as well coming soon. So how was your experience working with Dulkar and the entire team of the film, of the series film, and how how different will your character be in that as well? So
Cool.
that's
We'll start in reverse order. Guns and Gulaabs was a whole lot of fun. I have always enjoyed working with Raj and DK. They are maverick storytellers. They write wonderful characters, and they gave me a whole lot of freedom to interpret the character, be it in terms of looks or mannerisms and things like that. It's going to be. They don't write subtle characters. Let me just say that they don't. There are going to be most of their characters are really quirky because their stories and their sense of humor is also really quirky. It is a sort of a western. It's sort of based in the early 90s, so I got to sort of a lot of the influences for my character also comes from that period. So it was a lot of fun. Um, I most I mean I did get to reunite with Rajkumar in that after Badhaai Do also, and we will get to that bit last. But it was fun, and it's not in a way that you would see in Badhaai Do. So this is like a little different from Badhaai Do. I don't have any scenes with Dulkar, which is a tragedy. I got to hang
oh,
out with him. I got to hang out with him though. He's a really fun guy. He's a cool guy. He's a nice, very nice chap. Yeah,
mm,
and there's TJ Banu, who was also a wonderful actor. I really enjoyed working with her. Most of all with Rajan DK, because it's like really, I think we vibe really well. And, every actor, if they get a chance, they should work with Rajan DK. Moving on to me being from Karnataka, yeah, I'm a Kodava technically, but yes, I'm a Kannadiga by virtue of having been born in Karnataka. I speak the language. I've studied in the language. So, curiously, to be honest, that most of my childhood dreams about being in cinema were attached to Hindi cinema. Although I used to watch films in all the southern languages and I understand them quite well. Mr. Rishabh Shetty, the great Mr. Rishabh Shetty, the really popular, pan India star, Mr. Rishabh Shetty, had actually approached me with a couple of scripts before, and it's just that it didn't really come to fruition. I was interested in working with him because I really liked him. He was interested in making cinema, not just films, and I wanted to support that and be part of that sort of aspect. And I had a chat with mom also, and she said that, yeah, you're from here, and if you get a good opportunity to be part of a Kannada film, you should take it up. I said that I'll do at least one for you. I will. But unfortunately, that didn't work out, and he's moved on to sort of greater things now. So, wishful thinking, I don't know, maybe, but then it's not like the doors are closed. But
mm,
I have to be honest also, I am having a whole lot of fun, and this is what I wanted to do. Despite being from, I never thought, actually, when people ask me, like, how come you never really tried to be part of Kannada films because you're from there? It
mhm,
never really occurred to me until somebody asked me. I was like, oh, yeah, because I used to watch those films, but I never really imagined myself being in them. I always, fantasized about being in Hindi films.
mm,
Perhaps because during that time it was more pan-Indian than and Kannada film was more regional at that point of time. Perhaps, I'm not really sure. But now, of course, Indian cinema has become a lot more pan-Indian.
yeah.
And now, going back to your first question, I'd like to answer that last. as I was explaining earlier with you, as an actor, I have to accept the reality of the character that has been written wholeheartedly. I shouldn't question it. And when you accept it wholeheartedly, there comes an honesty in the way you approach the character and the way you portray it. And that's all there is. I think I didn't want to overcomplicate it in my head by taking pressure that, it has to be, I have to be responsible in my portrayal. My attempt was to be sincere. I have to be sincere. It's very likely that I could have over analyzed it and over thought it, and overthinking is generally a problem. A lot of us sometimes do overthink our character, particularly when there is some amount of discomfort or when you don't understand certain things or there's pressure to get it right. Then you more often than not overthink parts. So I tried not to do that. It was good writing. I knew that I was working with good people, some of whom I had worked with before, and I trusted them. I liked the writing, and I just wanted to be sincere. And there was no other attempt. Like, even on set, me and Raj wouldn't even like talk about the scenes or rehearse or anything like that. It's just two uh, actors who are professional actors who are good at their job, sincerely approaching the scene and their characters. And I think it worked because it had that sincere approach. And it's as simple as that. That's it.
Right. Wow, Gulu, thank you so much for such a wonderful, wonderful chat. I really enjoyed doing this interview with you, and I'm really glad that we could make this happen. So thank you so much for joining me on Filme Shilmy. It's
My
been
pleasure.
a
My
pleasure
pleasure.
to
My
have you.
pleasure. I'm
And
happy I bumped into you at the cinemas, and I'm happy that we're chatting about my work, and it's
yeah,
really nice.
definitely. Well, hopefully many more to come, I'm sure.
Yes,
Wishing you all the very best for Ulajh and your stint in London, and I cannot wait to catch up with you super soon.
thank you. I'm here for another 10 days, so yeah.
Wonderful.
Hopefully we
Well,
can.
hopefully
Yeah.
we might be able to meet at some point as well. Hopefully.
Yes, Anuj.
All right then.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you,
you for talking.
Gulshan. Thank you. Bye bye.